Hey there, and welcome to Strength and Sisterhood, a podcast where faith, friendship, and fierce encouragement come together.
We're here to share stories that will inspire and lift each other up while we grow in faith together.
No matter where you are, we're here to remind you that you are never alone. With God and a little sisterhood, we're stronger together.
So grab a cup of coffee and get ready to be encouraged and empowered.
Hello, and welcome to Strength and Sisterhood. I'm Amy.
And I'm Summer.
And we're really glad that you're here. How are you doing today, Summer?
I am fantastic.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I'm here with you. It's recording day.
It's recording day.
I've been looking forward to this. It feels like it's been a long time since we recorded for some reason.
Yeah.
It hasn't been any longer than normal, but
Right.
It seems like it's been longer. So I've really been looking forward to today.
Same.
And getting to hang out with you and talk with you. And
Yeah, I was really excited because we kind of felt like I felt kind of stale on some of the topics that we previously were talking about.
right.
Like, yeah, we can do that one. Yeah, we can do it. But I just didn't really have like oomph.
Yes.
There was no oomph behind it, right?
Yep.
And then you and I were talking on, I think, Wednesday.
This week, Wednesday.
Week, Wednesday.
We thought we had our topics the week before.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you kept asking, like, Amy, I need some time to think about it. Yeah, I need time to think about it too. But I just didn't really have any oomph behind it.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's go with that one. And then Wednesday we were talking.
Yep.
And
It
the
was
floodgates just opened.
Yes.
Yep. And so,
very clear.
yeah. So that made me, well, then I get excited. It's like, I want to record now.
I love when that happens
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the Lord gives us something. It's not us trying to think of something.
Right.
That was we were just talking
Right.
that day.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this needs to be a topic.
Yes.
And I was already thinking it. I was going to say it. And then you said it. I'm like, I was thinking the same thing.
Yes.
We should talk about this.
Our topic today, which is compassion.
Making a difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it comes from Jude.
122.
Well, technically Jude verse 22. Jude
Right.
verse 22.
That's true. Okay. Whatever.
So Jude verse 22.
Yes.
And of some having compassion, making a difference.
Yes.
And I've loved this. This is kind of like boast not thyself of tomorrow. It's one of those verses. Like It's just, I don't know, it's a special little verse, right? Because I have seen the ripple effect of, I feel like with compassion, I feel like there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
You know, and this verse phrases it perfectly.
It does.
Making a difference. Like, it's almost like, you know, you throw a stone out on a lake or something like that, and you just see the ripple go through.
Yep.
And that's what it feels like. It's just one act of compassion, and you just don't know all the area that could be impacted by that.
Right.
That one small act.
For sure.
So, yes, I'm very much looking forward to this episode. Am I stepping your foot? No.
I was waving my cup at you like, don't forget we have to fill up my cup.
Oh, I'm getting there. So actually, yeah, that's a good way. Let's fill up our cups.
All right.
Okay, Summer. So, what is your fill up your cup moment this week?
So, I have a friend. She's 93, and her name is Betty, and she lives about 40 miles away.
Sure.
30? Would you say 30 to 40 miles away?
30 to 40.
Yeah. I went to go see her.
Yeah.
Brought her some stuff I'd asked her because she lives in a very small town. There's not a store there. Well, there's a gas station. But asked her if she needed anything, and she gave me a list of stuff that I could pick up for her.
That's cute.
Another friend of ours went with me, and it was cute. And so she's like, she has a very specific list of stuff. And so I thought that was adorable. And it seems like something I would do because I'm particular. And so I would have like all the details in there like she did.
This is the one I want. Don't just pick up regular, any old toothpaste. I want this one.
Exactly. And if they don't have it, don't grab one. Like,
yes.
That's what she's kind of like.
That's the thing I do with Walmart. If it's not available, I don't want to substitute it.
Right. No.
On some things, okay, sure. I don't really care. But certain things, no.
Yeah.
I chose this for a reason.
Yes. So she gave me the list, and it said 2 snacks, my favorites. So I'm like, okay, I'll get one of my favorites, and then I'll get one of the friend that went with me. I'll get one of her favorites. And so we drove down there together, and it was really good. But spending time with Betty I don't know. I always really enjoy it. It's interesting how someone of my age and someone of her age can sit and talk. I mean, usually when I go visit her, I'm there for a couple of hours.
Sure.
And we're talking the whole time.
Yeah.
We don't run out of things to say.
Yeah.
And so it's just always a joy to be around her, to be with her. And she sent me an email after I left. Well, a few days later, she sends me an email. And at the end of it, well, she said it was such a special day and how she had a deep sigh of rejoicing as she climbed into bed Sunday night. And then on the last part, she says, "Thank you for motoring 44 miles and blessing my socks off." And I thought, oh, that's so cute. I just love it. I just love that. I love that her and I email back and forth because all these conversations I have in email.
Sure.
I can go back to them and look at them and we just have a kind of a special little bond, it seems like. And I love it.
I love that, blessing my socks off.
I know. I'm like, oh.
How cute is that?
I love you, Betty.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it is cool. So that filled up my cup, just spending that time with her, and then that email she sent. And it kind of goes along with this, my spending time with her, I'm not lifting myself up or trying to toot my own horn, but just in going and spending time with someone, that makes a difference in her day.
Yes.
She was rejoicing when she climbed into bed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, kind of like we had mentioned in the intro. You don't really know the impact.
Yeah.
Like for you, it was an afternoon. You know, you got to go in with your friend and drive down. So you got to spend time with that friend.
Yes, that was
on the ride
really good
there. And then you get to go and hang out with Betty. But you don't know the ripple effect. We've talked about it with our slow to speak. We don't know the impact of our words, but we don't always get to visually see
that's right
the impact of our actions.
Right.
And sometimes a lot of those actions, a hug or spending time with each other or even just sending a text, the ripple effect that can have sometimes within us.
Yes.
So you can feel that, and we don't always get to visually see that.
Right.
But that's cool.
Yeah, it was nice. What is yours?
Bless her socks up. Mine actually was from a couple weeks ago. I don't even know. I'm bad. I'm a bad judge of time frame.
So am I.
So, but
awful.
I was having a difficult week, stressful week at work, particularly, where it just felt full. There was a lot of things going on, and you and I talk usually throughout the day.
Yeah.
And you knew about it, and so you brought me a Chicky Chick.
People don't know what Chicky Chick is.
People don't know the Chicky Chick. So we're going to...
Are you going to share both, the Chicky Chick and the Mickey Mick, or are you just going to share the Chicky Chick for now?
Well, they pair best together.
They do, yes.
And you brought one element to it. I brought an element to it, I feel like.
Yes.
So the Chicky Chick, Mickey Mick.
Right.
Which... So just so that you guys are on the same page now as us. The Chicky Chick, Mickey Mick. The Chicky Chick is a frosted lemonade from Chick-fil-A. It's divine. It's a lemonade with ice cream in it.
It's amazing. It's so good.
You can get it in diet. So my mom and I will go, but we're like, okay, we need to do a diet this time. Okay. So, but it's so refreshing, especially on a spring day or a summer day when it's warm out. And sometimes you just need to go for a drive, right? And just go get out of the house and go get a little something.
Yeah.
So, or if you're going to go and hang out at cruise night and watch cars drive up and down the road, why not do it with a Chicky Chick Mickey Mick? So the Chicky Chick is the frosted lemonade from Chick-fil-A. And then you introduced me to the Mickey Mick, which is,
you have to do it this way. You go to McDonald's and you order a tote of cookies, a cookie tote. It is a baker's dozen, and they make your chocolate chip cookies fresh. So you typically have to wait a few minutes, to get your order. It's totally worth it.
Worth it.
You can't just go and say, I want 5 chocolate chip cookies. You're going to get what's been sitting there since yesterday. You have to get the cookie tote.
Yes.
And you pair that And it's 13. You get 13 cookies. So we'll go to cruise night and we do the cookies and we do the Chicky Chick and you pair them together and it's just
the Chicky Chick Mickey Mick.
The Chicky Chick Mickey Mick on cruise night.
And it's so, I mean, you take that warm, like they come out.
Oh, they're warm.
You open up that tote. The last time I went and got one, the employee, because what they'll do is, because they warm them up, you have to wait a few minutes, is they'll have you pull into one of those wait spots, right?
Yep.
Don't worry about that.
Yep.
Everybody who drives past you is going to be like, what are they waiting for? I'm waiting for myself a Mickey. That's what I'm waiting for.
And it's worth it.
The employee came out and he's just like, here, it smells really good.
Yeah. And they're the best because they're like crispy on the outside, but soft and
warm.
Yes.
And so the sun is shining, you're out, you got some good tunes on, you open up that tote and there's just that scent of goodness that comes out of there.
My birthday's coming up. And that's what I want to do for my birthday. I'm going to go for a cruise.
Okay.
And I want a Chicky Chick and a Mickey Mick on my birthday.
Okay. But it's so good. You pair the warm cookie and then you can wash that down with a nice, cool, and refreshing Chicky Chick.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is not healthy.
You're like having...
It is not healthy. You have to do it sparingly from time to time, in moderation.
Yeah.
But,
I think once a month is moderation. Cruise nights once a month.
Yeah.
Just do it once a month for the summer.
Sometimes here and there, in addition. But, yeah, so you brought me a Chicky Chick. Mm-hmm. And that made my day.
Aww.
Sometimes it's just a little treat, you know?
It was nice to come and see you in the middle of the day. Just to give you a hug.
One, it was kind of funny, too, because... Were we on Marco Polo?
I think so.
And then, or FaceTime, whatever it was. And, yep, I'm coming down your street.
Yes.
I'm 4 houses away. I'm 3 houses away.
You were already outside waving down the road. It's like, oh, hey.
Like a Hanyaker.
Oh, funny.
But, no, it was fun. And it filled up my cup. And it was a thoughtful thing. And food is my love language, so.
Well, from time to time, I'm thoughtful, so.
But it was fun. I appreciated it. So
good deal.
Okay. Well, let's get into our episode.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Okay, so that leads us into our topic for today, Summer, which comes from Jude, verse 22, like we said, and of some having compassion, making a difference. And so when we talked about this earlier this week, you had just listened to a sermon message about compassion. And the text that the preacher was using in that message, if I recall correctly, was the parable of the Good Samaritan, which is found in Luke 10.
Yes. And
so if you're not familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan, it's basically this guy is walking down the road from Jerusalem to Jericho or something like that.
I can't remember where.
And anyways, he's walking down the road. He basically gets mugged, right? And beaten and robbed and stripped of his raiment. And he's unrecognizable. He's obviously hurt. Right. And then 3 individuals pass by him. You have a priest, a Levite, and the Good Samaritan. Mm-hmm. And so that was the context. And so he used that because the Good Samaritan.
Right. The Bible says he had the Good Samaritan had compassion on him. And that man was a Jew. And so back then, the Samaritans and the Jews, they didn't like each other.
Right.
Am I understanding that right? Didn't like each other. And so, compassion brings action. The compassion he had led him to help the guy that was naked on the side of the road. And it didn't matter that he was a Jew.
Right.
And so I think to myself, let me not be, we talked about, I don't know if it's been since we've been recording, but you talked about like selective. Sometimes that can be selective on who we have compassion on. That's so wrong.
Yeah.
This Samaritan helped a Jewish guy, and at that time, that was not
right.
That was not common.
I think it's such a human thing. It feels like such a flesh tendency, old man tendency.
Like I'm not going to help that person because they're,
it's so easy. It's easy to have compassion on those that we love and we know. Like I can easily have compassion for my friends.
Right, yes.
And join them. But even having compassion for a stranger sometimes is difficult. And then it ought not to be selective. Like, especially in our country right now, there's so many things that divide us.
Yes. Yeah.
And even that's how it was back in that day too. Like you said, this was a Jewish man. It was unlike the Samaritan to
go and help a Jewish person.
Right. Go and help a Jewish person, or even for a Jewish person to accept help.
That's right. From a Samaritan.
Samaritan.
Yep.
Because rank and all that stuff was very important. Just as divided as we are today.
Yep.
They were divided into classes and certain people like that back in the Bible time as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it was that's such a good example of compassion.
Yes.
Because compassion, I looked it up this week to actually get kind of the definition of compassion and have a better understanding. Like I think I understand what compassion is. And it's like joining them in their state or in their suffering. And it's coupled with the desire to help.
Yes. Yes. It's so much so that it brings forth doing something about it to alleviate their pain.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started to look at examples of compassion that led to action from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And I found, obviously there's probably way more than what I found, but just kind of in thinking about it, this is what I was able to come up with. Jesus, when the multitude, they were hungry, the Bible says in Matthew 9:36 that he had compassion on them. What did he do? He fed them. Jesus, when he healed the leper, in Mark 1:41, it said he had compassion and he cleansed him. The Samaritan, the certain man, he ended up taking care of him, the one we just talked about. And Jesus and the two blind men, it says in Matthew 20, verse 34, that Jesus had compassion on them and they received their sight. Pharaoh's daughter, when she took in Moses, she had compassion on him. And that changed the course of a whole, can you imagine if that didn't happen?
Right.
Where we would be, it would not be the same story. She had enough compassion, she took in Moses. And so all of those things, Jesus is our example, and he was full of compassion, and it caused him to act in which, like you said with the definition, it alleviated their sorrow. It alleviated their pain. And so, I don't know, actually that was kind of neat, just all those things, like compassion brings action. Something I can remember.
Right. And action like that makes me think of, from that sermon that you listened to, one of the quotes that I got from that was, the act of compassion throws caution to the wind.
Yes, I remember him saying that.
I just remember thinking oof. Because that's exactly what the Good Samaritan did.
Yeah.
He didn't know it was the individual that he helped. The Jewish was unrecognizable. He was stripped of his raiment, which showed what his position was in society.
Yeah.
And so he didn't know who this was. And that's like Christ. Christ is not a respecter of persons.
That's right. We shouldn't
be
either.
I feel like that's something that I'm constantly fighting and being disappointed in myself about.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard sometimes to not be a respecter of persons.
That's right. Yep.
And so I feel like that's something that I'm praying regularly.
Well, it says that we look on the outside.
Yes.
God looked upon the heart.
Yes.
We look at what we think, what we see.
Yes.
And so we have to go against that.
Yes.
But also, too, that Samaritan who went up and did that, he wasn't concerned about what anybody else was thinking.
Right.
He wasn't worried about what people would say about him or his reputation. Right. He did what he knew was right to do.
Right. And I also thought in that message, it was interesting. Well, or in that parable, it talks about, so you have the priest and the Levite.
Those people should have been the ones that were helping the most.
The most qualified.
Yes.
And when I was listening to that, I didn't listen to the whole message.
It was good.
But I knew we were going to be talking about this, and you had mentioned that message. Yeah. And you lit up.
It was
when
good.
We talked about this. And so I was like, I want to listen to part of that message. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I heard him talking about the priest and the Levite, and I thought, ooh, Christ is a good example. And you've already mentioned it. Christ is our example of how to have compassion, how to be compassionate.
Yeah.
But they are also examples of how I want to not be.
Absolutely.
How I ought not to be.
I think one of them they passed on by. And
The priest.
The priest who should have been the one to help didn't. I don't want my eyes to see something that I know I should act on.
Yes.
And then not.
Yes. And I feel as though, I think one of the points that he pointed out in that message was the priest, I think he was coming down from Jerusalem. So the priest, that's basically, in my mind, I was like equating that with leaving church.
Sure.
Like you leave church and then you see somebody that has a need or needs some help. And I just just pass on the other side.
Right.
And that's the testament of nobody was there. This was a lonely road. Like nobody else saw the priest.
Right.
But the Lord saw us. And what we do, he didn't have integrity. You know?
Yeah.
The Good Samaritan had integrity.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what needed to be done. He had the capability to do something to help.
Yeah.
And so he did it. Regardless of if anybody saw him or not.
Yeah.
He didn't do it for the praise of men. That's one thing too. Like we live in a day and age of, social media and stuff like that. And a lot of people will, here's a homeless guy and look what I'm doing for them.
Yeah.
Like you see, I've seen videos on that, here, and it's good things that they're doing. But then you stop to actually think of how that actually looks.
Right.
Here, let me get my phone out and record you because you're a homeless person.
Right.
And I'm helping you.
Right. Yeah.
I just don't like that. There's just something within that.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like, I like what you're doing. I like the fact that you're helping these people, helping, you have the capability to. Fantastic.
Right.
But did you have to record that and post it,
Yeah.
So, but I like the fact of the Good Samaritan regardless. And the other thing that came to my mind was it was an inconvenience. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing that was very Christ-like. It was an inconvenience. He stopped I'm sure that he may have had a list of things. He was headed up the roadway and he was going somewhere for a reason. And he came across this individual that needed help and he stopped what he was doing. He changed his schedule.
Yeah.
He took him to where he could get help and he could get rest.
Right.
He paid for things. Mm-hmm. So it cost him time, inconvenience, financially, and yet he did it willingly. Lord, help me to be like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's so many times where I have my to-do list.
Yep.
On my mind.
Like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be inconvenient to do that.
Right.
Oh, that'd be inconvenient to do that.
I would do this, but.
Right. I got to get going here. Why? And so it was just one of those things. For me, it was a good reminder of, okay, Lord, my schedule and my day is yours. So if inconveniences come up, then let me be open to them. Help me to not see them as inconveniences. Help me to be more compassionate and have more of a sight for compassion.
Yes.
Yep. And not be a respecter of persons.
I know. I think right now, like you said, there's so many things that divide us. We can look at people and be like, I don't really want to help them. Like you said, it's easier to help people that are friends, family. It's easy.
Yeah.
But it is a sacrifice to go help somebody else that maybe isn't your crowd of people.
Right. Or one thing that he mentioned in that message that I thought was interesting because I can see it, even in myself, like the priest, a lot of times we can have a tendency to be like, well, they got themselves in that position.
Yeah.
They made life choices that got them into that position.
Right.
Whereas one of the points that he had with that parable of the Good Samaritan is those thieves and robbers that mugged the guy.
Yeah.
He happened to be the guy that came down before the priest did. Mm-hmm. Had it not been for that guy, and the priest came down, maybe the priest might have gotten mugged and stripped of his raiment.
Right.
And left for dead.
Yep.
But by the grace of God, it wasn't the priest.
Right.
And so just kind of having that mindset of, sometimes I have that mindset of, I am just a paycheck away or, whatever.
Yeah.
From being homeless, because that's how a lot of these, sometimes it's hard to discern because it feels like there's panhandlers
Right.
who are just out there to make.
Sure. Yeah.
And take advantage of
They
it.
do that as a job.
Yes.
Really. Yeah, I get that.
And so sometimes when I see those people, I do pray, like, Lord, give me discernment.
Mm-hmm.
You have given me, and money I want money to just pass through.
Yep. And that's what it should do.
It was in my hands for a little bit, but you decided to let it pass through to this person or whatever.
Yep.
To this individual. So, but at the same time, I don't endorse panhandlers who do it for a job.
Right. Well, I've heard people say, I've been in the car with people, like coworkers and stuff, when we'd run and go get lunch or whatever. And there'd be some on the side of the road wanting money, and that would spark a conversation in the car about, I don't give them anything.
Mm-hmm.
They do this, and they have their own thoughts, but really we don't know.
Right.
And you know what? God does know. And if I give to someone, what they do with it is up to them.
Yes.
And God sees all of it.
Yes.
So I'm going to do what I believe I'm led to do, and that's to help. And what they do with it, they're responsible for.
Yes.
But who's to say that I'm not, like you said, I'm one paycheck away from being homeless. Like, who is to know what could happen in our life?
Exactly.
And maybe me and my family might need a place to stay and be on the side of the road like, hey, please help. Mm-hmm. You never know. So we should not think of ourselves to be so high that we can't, we'd never be in that situation.
Yes.
Not everybody chooses to be in that situation.
Right. Circumstances
happen. And I think we should have compassion and realize, we don't know what's going on or what they're really up to, but I'm going to give because I have the ability to do something. And so I'm going to help.
Yeah.
And the Lord sees all of it.
And I think that's a mentality. I think that's a mindset that the Good Samaritan had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a need here. Now, was he a doctor? No. He took them to where he could get help.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's things within my abilities and my capabilities.
Right.
That I ought to. I just want to have this topic just opened my eyes and was a good reminder for me to be aware of those things.
Yes. Yeah.
And not just so focused on my schedule, my life, my little piddly
I'm guilty of that.
Problems or things or anything like that.
Yep.
And just be more concerned about, Lord, help me to see, like you said, man looketh on the outward, but God looketh on the heart.
Yeah.
And so help me to not see people as just people or annoyances or inconveniences.
Right.
But as souls.
Yes.
And help me to have compassion. And there's different ways that you can show compassion as well. Compassion I thought was interesting in the fact of it talks about seeing or having a deep awareness and then having that coupled with a strong desire to alleviate.
Yeah.
And so there's so many different ways that you can show compassion. And it doesn't have to be with that verse and some having compassion making a difference. Like I said earlier, it seems like a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
It can be one small act and you don't know the ripple effect of that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be some big grand gesture.
No.
Mm-mm. Or cost a bunch of money or anything like that.
Right.
It can simply just be, hey, I see you. That's what the man wanted. He just wanted to be seen.
Yep.
And acknowledged. And therefore he was helped.
Right.
Hopeful for help.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think about too, okay, so if you don't have compassion, what does that, if you find yourself unable to be compassionate,
mm-hmm.
What do you do then? There's probably times that you just don't feel very compassionate. I don't know. What do you do?
Well, I think as a Christian, Christ liveth within me.
Yeah.
And so therefore he was the example
of
having compassion. And so that's one thing that even with thinking about this topic as a discussion, Lord, help grow that. I mean, I know compassion isn't necessarily a fruit of the Spirit, but I thought about that this week. I thought, if my life were producing fruit, what would be produced?
Sure.
That people could see or what, or even that I could see. Mm-hmm. What needs to be cultivated?
Right.
Is compassion, is it budding at all?
Right.
Or has it just gone brown and stale?
Right. Yeah.
And if it has gone brown and stale, like you said, you find yourself not having compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then what do you do? Like my mom is big into plants. She's wonderful with plants.
She is.
Now, not all of her, like, and one thing I have learned about that is all plants like different things.
Mm-hmm.
Some like strong light. Some don't need a whole lot of light.
Right.
We have a friend that had a succulent.
Yeah.
And she learned succulents don't need a lot of water.
Right.
But they do need sunlight. So each plant is different. Some need a lot of sunlight.
Yeah.
And not a lot of water. Some need a lot of water. Some like humidity.
Right.
And so they like a humid atmosphere.
Humid environment.
Yep, humid environment. Others don't.
Yeah.
They want it dry, so it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm talking about that is because then you can look at the things in your life and be like, oh, okay, my compassion, it needs a little TLC.
Sure.
I need to water that. I need to, and then you ask the Lord,
yeah.
Lord, help me to water this. Help me to grow this in my life.
Yes. Yep.
So I think about that too, though. And I thought about with compassion is different than sympathy or empathy.
Right.
Because compassion is like a call to action.
Yes. Right.
Compassion causes, like you said, Jesus had compassion on those who were with him that were hungry, their hunger.
Yeah.
What did he do? He fed them. Like there's action with it.
Yeah.
Anytime there's compassion mentioned, there's action with it.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And that's how you make a difference.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Our action from compassion is what makes a difference. I thought of while you were talking, there was a verse that I had. It was Psalm 78, verses 38 and 39. Maybe this helps to answer my question too about, if you don't have compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So verse 38 through 39 says, but he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away and did not stir up all of his wrath. 39. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away and cometh not again. So maybe if we just stay in a continual reminder that we are but flesh, and so are they.
Yes.
So are the people that are strangers that we hesitate to help or have compassion on, remembering that we're all but flesh. And I'm thankful to God that he knows that we are but flesh and that we're not consumed, because it is of his mercies that we are not consumed.
Yes.
His compassions fail not.
Yes.
So we should probably have that same attitude towards other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am no better.
Right.
And the depth of my gratitude of the fact that God knows that I am but flesh and forgives my iniquities and all those things.
Yeah.
Like, help me to remind me of that. Keep that in the forefront of my mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they're the same. Like, we're all on equal playing field here.
That's right.
We're all but flesh,
Yeah, no respecter of persons.
No.
So, our action from compassion is what makes a difference. Yeah, that's good.
Help me, Lord, to act on that compassion.
Yeah, amen.
Grow it within me.
Yes, please, Lord.
Okay, well, that's going to take us to our gratitude segment. So, Summer, what's your gratitude this week?
Mine is, my family, it's a sacrifice to them for when we have recording day.
Yes.
Because we record 2 episodes at a time.
Yes.
And so it's not just plug and play. We get, 40 minutes done, start the next one 40 minutes. There's time that it takes to get going. We pray before each episode that we start. And so, they're having to be quiet. And, even today, Brandon's taking care of the lunch and the dinner. And so there's a sacrifice on their part for us to do this.
Yes.
So I want them to be noticed in that and to know that I'm thankful for that, thankful for them. I mean, Kaden, the work that she puts in into our, she puts our music into every episode. She did our logo. There's just a lot of help.
Yes.
That doesn't get recognized enough. So I am thankful to them and them just being willing to do what they do so that we can do this.
Yeah. Huge shout out to your family.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about things, but it's different when we actually sit down and we're face to face.
Yes, it is.
And so we set aside time to do this. And I love podcasting. I think it's fun.
It is fun.
We enjoy doing this.
Yep.
But it does take time.
It does.
To record and to do all the things and this is just the recording part of it.
Right. That's not all the outside work.
Right. There's other things to it. And like you said, with your daughter getting the music and stuff like that. And so that's how they spend their Saturday. And I appreciate them doing that.
Yeah, me too.
So
it's good work though.
It is. By them doing that, we are able to do the podcast.
Yeah, it makes me think of like different work in the church or missionaries that are out and about. We're not all front and center in those things, but there's people that are in the background doing a lot of things to make it all happen.
Yes.
Just like church, you've got nursery, you've got all these little things that have to happen to make it come to fruition.
Yes.
And so they do that.
Yeah.
So Amy, what was your gratitude moment?
I am thankful this week for taste.
Yeah.
Easter was recently, right? And so we had a special meal and potato salad.
I know you like potato salad.
My mom was just like, "Hey, will you come and test it?" Because she does like I'll help with some of the stuff, but she's got the gift,
right? Sure,
for making things taste good, like seasoning and stuff like that. My dad has that capability too. They're both really good cooks, but oh, sure, Mom, I'd be happy to taste that out for
I
you.
did that job.
So I don't get a small spoon. I got a big spoon.
Yeah. Hey, she didn't specify
she didn't.
How much to try.
She just asked if I wanted to taste it.
Yeah.
So, but it was so good. And then, we did have cheesecake for dessert.
Yummy.
I mean, there are just some of those things. Like we talked about the Chicky Chick Mickey Mick.
Right.
Like I'm thankful that this is probably to my detriment. It is to my detriment. But I'm thankful for taste.
Yes, that's good.
Things could have been bland. The Lord didn't have to inject flavor into things.
Salt. Salt is good. I like
salt and butter.
Oh, butter. Grease. Fat.
But even just like, I think of even just like strawberries.
Yeah.
You bite into, or a raspberry.
Yummy.
You bite into those things, or a nice, well-cooked steak.
I'm really hungry right now, by the way.
So this probably did not help you.
This is not helping.
But I'm thankful for taste.
Me too.
I'm thankful that we don't just have the same food day in and day out.
You're right. There's variety.
There's a variety of tastes. Even with, like pop or soda, like just different. I'm just thankful for taste.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's good.
So with that, we'll wrap up because we're going to go get something to eat because we're both hungry.
Man, yes.
And we'll enjoy that taste.
I'm very thankful. Very, very thankful.
So with that, we'll wrap up and just thank you guys for listening to today. Like and subscribe. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. We appreciate that. And you can interact with us on Substack, or you can check us out on Instagram, which is
Strength and Sisterhood Pod
on Instagram. You can also send us an email. Go old school. Send us an email at
strengthandsisterhoodpod@gmail.com.
There you go. And we're on YouTube and Strength and Sisterhood. And you can comment on there. We've gotten a couple comments on there. And you can also comment on Spotify. And we would love to interact with you guys.
Yes.
We want to try to build a community. We're not trying to go viral.
No.
But we do want to interact with you guys. And we appreciate anybody who does ever give feedback or interact. It's encouraging to us. I always just kind of think like iron sharpeneth iron.
Yep.
And so that sharpens us. Sometimes I start to feel a little dull.
Yes.
And so sometimes when those comments come through or somebody sends me a text of like, hey, listen to the episode, or they see me and they're just like, hey, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Man, that's just sharpening that blade a little bit. Yep. So I appreciate that.
I do too. It's always fun. It's exciting to get something.
It is. So, and that's not why we do it, but
it helps to keep us going.
It helps to keep us going.
When it's kind of dull, it's like,
Well, and
why are we even doing this?
I'm a second guesser.
Same. Yeah.
Did that make sense? Did I just blurb out?
But you know what?
Nonsense.
We need that board up, because I'm just reminded that my stepmom she said, if you ever wonder why you're doing what you're doing, know that it's making a difference. I'm paraphrasing, but we need to remember that.
I have thought about that for a couple days. We need to get that.
When we question it, when we doubt, when we second guess, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
Well, and two, I was reminded, I was doing dishes the other day and I thought about that. And the Lord reminded me, like, hey, this is something that the Lord wanted us to do.
Yeah.
We felt that this is something that the Lord wanted us to do.
Yeah.
And that's good enough. The comments and the feedback and the support is appreciated, but honestly, that's enough.
Yeah.
Just knowing that that the Lord wanted us to do it.
That's right.
So
that's awesome.
Until next week, we'll see you later.
Bye.
See ya.